Everybody asks me what type of water is the best water to make tea with. And because you're a data guy, you actually tested this. So tell me about your water data test, and then I can refer everybody else from now on to this video.
Cool.
Yes.
So this is all based on my experience going to the tea shops in China, going to Tea City in Beijing. You and I have both been there. I get these green teas. I get these Longjing, Dragon Well, and I taste them in the tea stall, and be like, oh, this is an amazing tea. Then I take it back to Chicago, start drinking it at home, and be like, this is just not as good. And I'm like, what is, I loved this in the tea shop, and now it's, the suspicious side of me is like, oh, they're switching out the tea, they're giving me the good ones, and then they switch, it's like, no, that's not it.
But again, without information, you start thinking you're getting tricked, and it's like, that's a human thing, it just happens.
Totally human.
Yeah.
And at one point, I think I was traveling, I bought water at the store for some reason, and I was like, holy cow, this water is really good, or this tea is really good.
Yeah.
And I was like, I think it was the water. And so I started doing tests. And as the psychologist, I know you like, people are biased. If you believe something works, you're going to think it tastes better, whatever. Yeah. So I started doing blind taste tests. And so I started at home. I would literally, like, blind, not looking at this, I test tap water. I do like Brita water, so like a simple filter. A simple filter. And then the third one that I'd use is either, first it was distilled water from the store, so like a jug of distilled water. And then later I got a reverse osmosis system in my home because of these tests. So it's like
it seems like your hobby exists to get you really expensive equipment that is really not like, it's not like you're like, oh, I'm gonna like make a TV show so I get a really nice camera that I can use elsewhere. It's like a reverse osmosis system is not really useful for much else. Laser particle detector.
All that money I saved on air purifiers, I'm now spending on water systems.
So you got, so distilled or reverse osmosis water as the final.
So like same amount of tea. I think I would even measure it in grams using a scale just to make sure that the tea was the same. Pour it all out, and then blind have somebody hand me the different teas. And I've since replicated this with other people. Like you think like, oh, maybe a tea expert can tell the difference. No.
Regular people. I'd
have people over at my house and say, let's do the experiment. Have them all out, again, them blindfolded. It's immediately obvious. The distilled water or the RO, the reverse osmosis water, hands down the best.
Really?
Right? That experiment has never failed. And you can even see it in the color. So if you do a green tea, I don't know how it necessarily would work with a darker tea. And by the way, I think with a Puerh, this probably wouldn't matter. But with a tea where the flavor is more delicate. So if you have like an Earl Grey, whatever, it's so strong.
So that's anything where the water, like that first tea we had with the word they say in Mandarin, tian shui, like, sweet water. If it's got that sweet water taste, it'll definitely work better from the thing. My really janky version of this test was I actually, in the last summer, I went to the Smoky Mountains, and the Airbnb we had, the tap water was very sulfurous. Like it was very sulfurous. It was safe to drink, I'm sure, but it smelled bad. And then so when we were hiking in the woods, they had this small stream. And I remember that Lu Yu, and the real tea heads know Lu Yu. Lu Yu said the best source for tea water is a swiftly moving mountain stream from the middle where there's no sediment collected. And so I had an empty Gatorade bottle and I filled it up with river water and boiled it for 5 minutes or whatever to make sure it wasn't going to kill me. And it was much better. It was clearly better than what came out of the tap. And I think that the water quality really can affect the quality of the tea. So do you keep distilled water on hand in order to drink tea now?
So at home I use the RO system when I travel with my green tea.
You should recommend it to me because I need one of those. I'm using filtered water, but maybe I should be getting a reverse osmosis. That's a business expense, right?
It should be for you.
Totally.
And if you have a glass, glass like this, try it with a green tea.
Yeah.
So try this test. You could even just do tap versus distilled. What the color will look like is if you, in the RO water, the distilled water, it's much lighter. I would say a little bit greener and a lot clearer. With the tap water, it's got sort of a yellow hue to it, almost brown. it doesn't even look appetite. I mean, like from looking at it, you would
You
already
would,
start.
you would say
Oh,
you would pick which one to pick.
That's the better one. But again, the blind taste test, you can taste it immediately.
Cool. I feel like this is like setting us up. We should now cut to me trying this out on my neighbor.
Oh, totally should.
Like it would be fun. I think because I think that the water quality really does matter. I remember the one of tea people, the really high end tea people have all these like weird dreams, like they have these like visions for the perfect way they want to make tea. And I remember I met this one guy who was like he was my age, but he was like very wealthy Chinese family. He like has much time to spend on as much money to spend on tea as he wanted, and he would be like, Jesse, one day I want to go to the Himalayas, and I want to drink like pure water from the runoff of the Himalayan sacred mountains, and then you should come with me and we should hike up there and drink water from those tea mountains. And then secretly in my head I was like, I'm gonna have to be really turned into much bigger of a tea guy than I am now to do that. But now I'm like, that'll be a hell of a YouTube. I'm not there, but I'm closer than I was when he said that sounds like a good idea. But
prayer flags flapping in the wind.
Exactly. So to reiterate, distilled is best, and then compared to the Brita or the tap, what was better?
Oh, each step up you get in terms of filtration, the more you can filter the junk out, the better it was. So like the Brita was better than the tap, but really just to get everything out of there. So distilled water, by the way, is everything's out of there. It is just water.
H2O.
Right? Just water. So there's no minerals, there's no chlorine, there's no pesticide.
So you don't need any sort of like mineral to help the flavor adhere or whatever to your mouth?
So I'm not an expert in the chemistry of tea, but what I've read about it is that having minerals and other stuff in the water actually oxidizes the tea, and that could help explain why it's also the color difference. So
that would also explain why the green tea benefits the most from it, because the green tea is unoxidized, and so you want to keep it unoxidized. Whereas maybe if you're having a black tea or something that's fully oxidized, it won't matter as much. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But yeah, so that's very cool. We're about to finish up, but before we finish up, what did you think of the Duedue's 2010?
This is a great pour. This is a solid pour. One thing I'll say about Puerh is that it is super reliable.
Yeah.
I've had the fishy that you've said, so there are some cheap ones that are really bad. But once you get up above the bad, it's a reliable friend. Yeah. Whereas like when you're in the green tea
can be up and down, and it can be and also like this one sat for 2 years or whatever. So that it definitely has that reliability.